And we're starting. So, refresh.
The video games industry is one of the most innovative and fastest growing industries in the world. The men and women of this industry work tirelessly to provide entertainment for the masses, and some of these provide the music that we love, music that we listen to when we're enjoying ourselves playing those video games, music that we love, music that we listen to when we're enjoying ourselves listening to video games. Do we even know who these people are? No. Would video games be the same without them? No. What you're about to hear...
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the IGM Sunday Newscast. I am the Average Gamer, and joining me once again is Vinny Parisi. I'm so excited.
I'm back, baby.
Oh, yeah!
It's been a while, but I'm glad to be back on. Hopefully I can be on more consistently starting, after next week. I'll be off next week, but then starting in September, I can be back on full time.
Yeah, exactly. So we technically have 4 hosts that we're kind of going to go through. Either one or some of the 4 of us will be on every week, which will be awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get 2 to 3 people on every week. Yeah. Because I think 3 is the magic number. We like having 3 people on.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree with that. But let's talk about some indie news.
That's a good idea.
The first thing I wanted to talk about, I actually threw in there for you because I know how much you love this game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let's talk about Elysian Shadows.
Woo!
This game just got funded. It's got a week to go, so they could be looking at some stretch goals, depending on how much cash they get. But do you want to tell us a little bit about the game, Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, it's a 2D RPG. The really cool thing is it was built from the ground up specifically for the Sega Dreamcast, which is my all-time favorite console.
Me too.
And it was actually developed specifically, it was only going to be platform exclusive to the Dreamcast and nothing else. And the project originally started out a lot smaller than it is today. So it's just supposed to be this, 2D RPG for the Dreamcast. And they found a little bit of initial publisher backing, and they realized that there was actually a pretty big demand for this game. So they kind of took a step back, they rethought production, and they kind of went AAA full scale. And what they came up with was something that has all of the dynamic lighting and really cool features that the Kickstarter lists. And now it's a full-on project for almost every conceivable platform, like every modern device these days. They're still sticking to the Dreamcast roots, so it's of course going to come out on the Dreamcast. The initial launch is actually going to be for Dreamcast and Ouya, because I believe it's part of the Free the Games fund for Ouya. So up to a certain amount of money that was donated for the Kickstarter, Ouya is going to match it. I think it was something like... I think it's 50,000. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's a lot of money that Ouya is going to kick them.
Oh, that's great.
And part of the agreement, because it was built specifically for the Dreamcast, normally with the Free the Games fund, it's Ouya exclusive for a limited time. But in this case, it's going to be on Ouya and Dreamcast simultaneously, and then come to everything else afterwards.
I think the last title launch for the Dreamcast was like the original Ikaruga, which is what, like 16 years ago? I
mean, it's really cool. There is this underground movement. There has been at least 1 to 2 Dreamcast games releasing every year since Sega stopped making games and supporting the platform. Yeah, they tend to be shoot 'em ups, either horizontal or side-scrolling, or vertical rather. But this is the first time a big deal, full-fledged RPG is coming ever. Since production stopped on the Dreamcast.
Well, it is super exciting. I used to love my Dreamcast just because of how ridiculously moddable they were. They were like 1 part console and 2 parts PC.
Yeah. Somebody in chat was asking if they're going to make cartridges. They are going to make CDs. This Dreamcast was CD based. Yeah. There's going to be a physical copy. There's actually going to be a special edition physical copy. If you look at some of the tiers, below the $60 tier, you get into the physical limited edition stuff. They're using a distributor. We talked about this in the cover story a little bit, but they're using a distributor that makes really nice physical copies and physical collector's editions. So there's some extra goodies on the tier list if you take a look at it.
Speaking of which, I kind of wanted to talk about the spoiler tier. Just throw in a little thing there. If you back this game for $60 or more, or is it just $60? Is it just this one tier?
We're at a few tiers, but $60 is the main one you want to talk about.
Yeah, so when you back it at $60, you actually get a 1-year digital subscription to the Indie Game Magazine, which is the magazine that I write for and Vinny edits and co-owns.
Yeah, that is true. The $60 tier is actually my favorite, other than aside from getting a year subscription to the magazine. It's the first one with the physical copy of the Dreamcast edition of Elysian Shadows, and it's also, you get a digital soundtrack, a digital art book, a digital comic book. They're making like a lot of cool stuff to tie into the game. It's really impressive.
I like you go way down there, and they've got some cool things like it reminded me of the Borderlands 2 loot chest, where they actually they ship you this chest full of just different types of loot and that kind of thing, both in and out of game loot as well. So it's an interesting take on a Kickstarter. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean they have a really impressive tier way down at the bottom, starting at the $999 tier, called the Customizer, and it's a completely custom Elysian Shadows themed Sega Dreamcast console, complete with VMU.
Wow.
And that within the first 48 hours of the campaign, that tier sold out. So they added a couple more just to give people a chance, and they're almost all sold out. So,
oh, Vinny's got a little robot on us.
available 2 or 3 why not go all out?
I think we got most of that. You went a little bit robot.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah, but it's the RPG looks great. It's a great looking game. They're packing it with a lot of awesome stuff. It is also worth mentioning that now that it's funded, they're also going to be giving out the toolkit and the physics engine, so you can build your own
cool.
RPGs. And this system supports 2D and also 2.5D, as you can see from the game itself. It's 2.5D.
Yeah.
But this engine is really crucial because, like I said before, it's built from the ground up to be compatible with almost every modern platform right now. So you can build your own Dreamcast RPG, or you could just as easily port it with almost no effort to PC, Mac, Android, iOS. It's pretty impressive.
That's cool. I'm glad that they got backed. I know we've had their Kickstarter on the site for a little while now, and so I've been watching it daily.
Yeah, I'm impressed that they got back with a week to spare, because it kind of stalled with about 14 days left to go. We started doing a little bit of extra promotion for it, which I guess we should kind of segue into. I know we were going to talk about this a little later, but we might as well because we're talking about it.
Yeah, sure.
The reason we've been talking about Elysian Shadows, in addition to just being genuinely excited for it and it being one of our cover stories, they're the first trial run for this new crowdfunding initiative that we've got going. We made an announcement about it probably a week or so ago. And how it works is we want to work together with indie developers that are launching a Kickstarter. Before the campaign launches, we want to get to know these guys. We want them to pitch their campaigns to us, and we take a look at them. And if we think that it's a good game and it's worth supporting, we offer them this kind of partnership where we offer tiers of the magazine. Either we give out single digital issues or yearly subscriptions at a couple of tiers, or however many tiers we decide on. And in exchange, we give them that little widget on the sidebar of our homepage, and we promote them on social media and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be a really good way to build synergy in the community, because we can help raise awareness, and also we can help get the magazine out there to more people. And I think the more people that see the magazine, the better we can promote these kind of games.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, who better to pick the games to promote on Kickstarter than the people that have been, doing a weekly newscast for nearly 6 months now.
Yeah, right. So I think we have a good handle on the cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff, and we can't cover everything, but this is kind of our way to cover as much as possible.
Yeah.
We'll also, giving indies who have no promotional budget the chance to get their game out there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly one of the reasons I love working for the magazine, is that even like before the magazine, one of my whole things is trying to get the exposure and the love that the indie community needs to the indie developers. And a lot of times, because they're low budget, it can be difficult. So it's nice to try and help them out, or try and find alternatives of ways that we can try and get the exposure to them. So it's awesome.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. This is kind of common knowledge out there, or at least I haven't kept it a secret. The advertising that we do on the site, when we work with indie developers to advertise for them, we give them a special discount, and it's really cheap. And as cheap as it is, some devs really don't have $100 or so to spend. That's money that they can spend to eat for however long. So this kind of setup where you can work with us for free, it doesn't cost anything, because we only take a kickback, a small fee if if the campaign gets funded rather, and we only make money when we give out copies of the magazine.
Yeah.
So
Great.
It's a good way to work together.
Yeah. No, that'll be great. I'm looking forward to that. Next up, I wanted to talk about a game that we featured on Indie or Average Giants a long time ago, quite a while ago. And the game that I've been following much longer than that, it's called Centrist, and it's one of the most creative musical games I think I have ever freaking played. And it just launched early access on Steam, so I'm really excited. The woman that made this game, I'm trying to remember, it's Samantha Kalman. She's amazing, and it's just this. You should check it out. It's on Steam. It's on sale right now. Normally it's $19.99. It's on sale for $17.99, I believe, for the next little bit. And they're expecting a full launch in the first quarter of 2015. But I just wanted to play like maybe 10, 15 seconds of this video just to show you the kind of gameplay that it has. It's nuts. Anyway, so you can see it's like a puzzle-style game, and it completely rotates, and you have to fill in all the blank spots, but you're able to fill it in however you like, and you're given different instruments. So she's just using drums at the beginning there, but you can switch it to like synths or guitars or whatever you'd like to fill in, and you end up making your own song. So I really like it. I really like the fact that it's been successful so far. I'm glad to see that it's on Steam, and it's one of the things I like about the indie community is that you really get to experiment with new mechanics and new gameplay features like this. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that.
I think it's an awesome idea. I will say I also want to point out that there's a lot of colors on the screen, but it doesn't look overwhelming. I know we work with a lot of games, and we have to mention whenever there's any type of potential photosensitivity issue for people who are epileptic or prone to seizures. And I've been watching this game for a while, and it seems like, as colorful as it is, they really kept the tones in check so that anybody can play it.
Yeah, it's nice. And I mean, even though the music can get pretty hectic, I'll leave a link to the description of the Centrist playthrough for Average Giants. It got a little hectic. You couldn't hear each other. But that being said, it's not flashing at you. It's not coming at your face or anything like that. So yeah, it's nice to see that people with photosensitivity should be able to play this with no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
Moving on, we had a couple more pieces that I wanted to talk about. Oh yes, Arena Cyber. Arena Cyber Evolution.
Oh yeah, that's it. Formerly known as Project Cyber.
Yeah.
If you've been following the game since PAX East back
Yeah.
in March.
And we have a video, it'll be going up sometime in the next week, where the IGM team took on the developers of Arena.
Took on, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would call it that. Do you want to give a little description of what happened, Vinny?
Well, I think for anybody who doesn't know, we should give a description of what the game is first.
Yeah, sure, that's great.
So Arena Cyber Evolution is, well, what they want it to be is the first major indie esport. So it's a 3v3 sporting event, really. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit like soccer, a little bit like hockey. So you have a team of three. One person plays goalie, and the other two can either play one offensive, one defensive, or however you want to strategize. But each character has their own sort of a class type. So one is obviously more offensive-based. One is more controlling and plays the midfield. And then obviously there are those that are better at being goalie. And you play for, I think 3 minutes is the default timer, and it's basically back and forth soccer rules where you try to score as many points as you want. Yeah. But every character has their own power up, and it kind of changes the dynamic of the game depending on what their power up is. So it's really interesting. It's really fun. I played it at PAX East, and I got hooked pretty fast. Since then, they've made a lot of changes. They've completely overhauled the art style. They've added a lot of new classes and a lot of new abilities. The really cool thing is that the entire development process is taking place in front of the community, getting the community's feedback. So it's kind of like, early access, but on an entirely new level where the entire game from start to finish is half in the hands of the community. The devs really listen to feedback from the community. They've implemented as much as they can. So the game is really a product of, it's really a team effort between the community and the development team. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about the event itself?
Yeah, sure. I was actually going to mention the graphic style I loved. I haven't seen that heavily of cel-shaded graphics in a long time, and they really do it justice. I love that. I also love the fact that, being an esport, it feels almost a little bit like a MOBA game if it was a sports kind of MOBA, if that makes sense. Because the people you use, they have different powers, and so you have to kind of coordinate with your team to see whose powers can work well together, etc., etc. Much like a lot of the MOBAs that are out there now. But because it's still got this soccer / hockey feel to it, it's a really interesting mix. Yeah.
One of the other really cool things that a way that they're integrating the community is that when the game is actually finished, obviously it's supposed to be streamed on Twitch, and they're thinking about working with Hitbox as well. The chat is going to get to participate and kind of not do anything too drastic, but they can affect certain aspects of the gameplay, like what map they play on, and maybe like a mid-game event. So be on the lookout for that, because they're going to be talking about that in the coming months. But audience participation is going to have direct impact on the games.
And you're seeing more and more of that with streaming, which I love. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
As for the default amount of time that a match is, I actually don't know, because each match felt like an eternity.
Yeah, so we took on the developers. Well, some of the writing team took them on. I wish I could have played with them, but I couldn't. So they had a few matches. I think you guys played 3 matches.
Yeah, about 3 matches.
Yeah, 3 matches on Friday evening, and we got our butts kicked pretty badly.
Oh man, they did not go easy on us. That is true. That is for sure.
But I have to say, no matter what the outcome was, it's still such a fun game to play. And losing really only makes you want to play more, because you just want to get better.
Yeah. To play and to watch. It's a blast to even watch that one. Which is something I assume that they have to really pay attention to if they really want audience participation. It's got to be fun to watch. It can't be like a boring... Like when The Simpsons play soccer. Can't be that kind of sports game.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to watch. Oh, Arduin in chat was saying 5 minutes. I guess 5 minutes is the default timer. Wow, it felt a lot longer than 5 minutes, but I'll take your word for it. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely one to watch. It's free to download the early access on Steam, so you can give it a try and start giving feedback. They stream for sure every Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. They try to stream as much as possible, but there's definitely streams on Friday evening. They actually were just doing a 24-hour stream that kicked off when we faced against them Friday night. So I'm sure the guys are tired this weekend, but
So we need a rematch like right now.
yeah, while they're half asleep.
Also, I think Arduin is my favorite person in chat. They just complimented saying that our team actually wasn't bad. It's just that the devs were relentless. I stand by that.
You don't have to butter us up. We know how bad the match. But I appreciate the compliments.
Now let's talk about one of my favorites. So, actually, a small thing. This is the people that did Shadowrun Returns. They had another Kickstarter for a tabletop game that just came in the mail for me, and it's amazing to play. It's called Golem Arcana, where it's like a mix of tabletop and electronic game. But anyway, let's talk about Shadowrun Dragonfall.
Wow, I just got kind of interested in that, but okay, we'll transition. You can leave me hanging like that.
Sure, no. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to check it out, because it's a really cool tabletop game. I wish that we could cover more tabletop-y type games, but I mean, it's not really that feasible for.
Yeah, I mean, there are indie tabletops. We're going to cover the Boston Festival of Indie Games in September, and
cool.
It's all indie stuff, and that includes tabletops. But it's a can of worms that we're not really prepared to open just yet.
Yeah.
So,
if we ever are, let me know, because that's like the only types of board games I own.
Yeah, I will definitely. We're going to look into it. We might have an announcement probably at the start of next year, maybe in the springtime.
Cool.
But anyway, so back to Shadowrun. Shadowrun Dragonfall actually has a director's cut in the works that's coming out on September 18th, so only a few weeks away. And they just released this week the first of, I believe, 4 developer diaries that are, so each one has a bit of info about a specific feature that's being added to the director's cut.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, so the first video that they released talked about the companion story missions and some of the content that's being added. So from the very beginning, when they first started working on Dragonfall, they actually had these missions already in mind. But the development time kind of got cut short, and rather than release them half-finished or incomplete, they decided to just cut it.
Actually, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's funny you bring that up, because when Harebrained Schemes released Shadowrun Returns, they had a similar issue. They did the main campaign, but the main complaint was that it was too small. Mm-hmm. And they came out saying, like, oh yeah, we wanted to make it longer, but we couldn't because we didn't have time. But they did leave the development kit in there so that people could make their own stories. And then, I can't remember how long it took, 6 months or so, or a year later, they released the full story, which was called Dragonfall, which was like a full DLC. And Dragonfall is amazing. It is so much fun to play. So you guys need to check this one out. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so content-wise, the big thing is that they're going to do companion story missions. So for... I think they've announced so far Glory, Blitz, and I think there was one more that's getting it. There's three new companion quests that are being added. And so what these do, they're specific quests for these characters that you can go on to give them a little bit more of a backstory. They're each going to get their own unique item at the end of the mission. And really interestingly is that they're each a different kind of genre per mission. Yeah. So it is really cool. There's one that's kind of like a techno thriller. There's one that's a dark comedy, and there's one that's a supernatural horror. It's 3. It's for Glory, Iger, and Blitz. They're each going to get their own mission. And for the 4th companion, I guess you pronounce it Deirdrich. He's going to get he already has his quest. That they were able to work that into the original Dragonfall. But he's going to get his own unique reward at the end of his quest now if you replay the director's cut.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and so and aside from these missions, the other really big feature that they announced in this dev diary was a new kind of overhaul for crew advancement. So now they're giving people complete control over parties' character sheets. And so what that means is, while characters will still kind of have their same shtick, if the guy was, if he used magic, he's not going to stop using magic, and if he's ranged, he's going to stay ranged. But the point is that the new system will allow each player to choose one of 2 all-new unique enhancements for each companion character every time they advance in skill. So there's going to be a lot of room to kind of personalize and customize these companions.
Harebrained Schemes, they are a company to watch for because they really did Shadowrun right, and it sounds like they're just going to be improving on that.
Yeah, so they're adding all kinds of stuff. There's going to be additional missions on top of these character ones. These two were just the focus of the dev diary. There's going to be additional endings. They were talking about how they've always wanted to write some type of what-if scenarios related to Dragonfall's original ending. So there's going to be some what-if type additional endings to look out for. And on top of that, the final thing is that there's going to be more Easter eggs for original fans of the pen and paper games. So if you're a Shadowrun player and have been, since the 90s, there's going to be some stuff that's going to catch your eye.
That's cool. That's really cool. My wife's father was like a fan of the original Shadowrun, and we we kind of inherited the books. And then I was at PAX Prime last year when Shadowrun Returns was first launching, and they were doing the Golem Arcana Kickstarter, and they had all the books for all the new Shadowrun, and I was so tempted to just splurge and buy the whole thing, but I didn't because I didn't want to carry that many books around all day.
Yeah, that's awesome though. There's so much lore to the world. You can really get lost in it if you enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's nice. Like, I mean, if you weren't a fan of Baldur's Gate back in the day, then I don't want to be your friend. But
first of all, shame on you. Yeah.
Yeah. Those games, I love the return to the old RPGs that we're seeing now, and I love the fact that there are some bigger companies taking on this classic RPG style. So we're getting the great narratives, and we're getting an updated feel to them, and I think it really deserves that.